Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to episode 2 of Unit 11 for grade 10. In this episode, we will discuss grammar and language functions. Through tips and techniques, you will answer the grammatical questions easily. Now, the passive. What do you know about passive? And if I ask you a question about passive, you will be challenged to answer and you will feel afraid to answer. But I promise, after this episode, you will answer every single passive question easily. Now, in English, we have two kinds of sentences, the active sentence and the passive sentence. What do we mean by the active sentence? In the active sentence, we know who is making the action. But in the passive sentence, we don't know who makes the action, or simply the one who makes the action is not really important. Let's take an example. The earthquake destroyed a lot of buildings. Now, this is an active sentence because we know who caused the buildings to be destroyed, okay? But in the passive sentence, we can see a lot of buildings were destroyed. Now, when we read this sentence, we don't know who made this action. This is the difference between active sentences and passive sentences. Okay, the question is, when do we use the passive? We use the passive when the object is more important than the subject. Let's take a look at the sentence structure. How do we build the sentence? The earthquake destroyed a lot of buildings. This is an active sentence. We know who made the act. See, at the beginning of the sentence, there is a subject, and in the middle, the verb, destroyed. And then a lot of buildings is the object. This is how active sentences look like. If I want to turn this sentence into a passive one, we have to remember two things. The first thing is that every passive sentence should have a verb to be. And every verb in the passive sentence is in the past participle. Remember this. Every single sentence has a verb to be, and every single sentence, the verb in it is in the past participle. Now, you will ask me, how do I choose the verb to be? You know that we have a verb to be in the present and verbs to be in the past. And also, we have verb to be attached to other helping verbs or modal verbs. Is, am, are verb to be in the present. Was and were are verbs to be in the past. Be, been, and being are also verbs to be. If I want to choose the right verb to be, to put it in the passive sentence, I should look at the verb in the active sentence first and see what tense is that verb in. Let's take a look. They cancelled all flights because of the fog. Okay, this is an active sentence. Now, let's underline the subject, the verb, and the object. They is the subject, cancelled is the verb, and the object is all flights. If I want to choose the proper verb to be, I have to look at the verb in this sentence before I choose any verb to be. Now, step by step, we are going to change this sentence from active sentence into a passive one. First, you have to find the subject, verb, and object, and then move the object to the beginning of the sentence. So, instead of having all flights at the end or in the middle, just drag it to the beginning. So, you will start the sentence with an object, all flights. And then we need to choose a verb to be. So, as I mentioned, look at the verb in the active sentence and think, what is the tense of this verb? Cancelled is in the past simple. Remember, verb to be in the past simple was or were. Now, how do I choose was or were? Look at the object. Is it singular or plural? All flights, plural. So I will choose were. Put the verb to be in the same tense. Make sure it suits the object. All flights were. And then we put the verb in the past participle because, as we said, verb to be and the verb in the past participle for every single passive sentence. So I will say all flights were cancelled because of the fog. Now, is it important to mention the subject? If yes, add it to the end. Now, the subject here is they, and I will say by them. And then I will look at the sentence and I will ask myself, is it important to mention the subject? If not, just don't mention it. Let's look at this sentence. The teacher teaches the course online. As I said, look for the three, the subject, the verb, and the object. Here they are. What are we going to do? We will put the object at the beginning, the course, and then we will choose a verb to be that suits the object and in the same tense as the verb in the active sentence. So here is, and then the verb will turn automatically to the past participle. So teaches turns into taught because taught is the past participle of teach. So the sentence will be the course is taught online. And then I will think, is it important to mention the subject, which is the teacher? And I think yes. So I will say by the teacher. Now, I will repeat. Why did we choose is as the verb to be in this sentence? Because the verb in the active sentence was in the present simple. Remember those two rules. Every verb is turned into the past participle and put the verb to be in the same tense of the verb in the active sentence. If you remembered those two rules, you will answer all the passive sentences. Let's take a look at a sentence in the simple past. The plumber fixed the leak in the roof. Following the tips I gave you earlier, let's turn this sentence into a passive sentence. The leak, the object goes to the beginning. So the leak will be at the beginning of the sentence. And then we will turn the verb into the past participle and we will choose verb to be from the same tense as the active sentence. Let's take a look. The leak in the roof was fixed. Okay, we chose was because the verb in the active sentence was in the past. So I have to choose verb to be in the past suitable for the object. The object here is the leak. That's why I chose was. Is it important to mention the subject? I think yes. The leak in the roof was fixed by the plumber. The present continuous past. The same thing applies. My students are using this program. Let's bring the object to the beginning, look for a suitable verb to be, and turn the verb into past participle. Let's take a look. This program is being used by my students. Look how I used the word being. Why do you think I used it? If your sentence has a verb to be already and it is followed by a verb, you have to think of the three. Is it be, been, or being? How do I choose between those three? If the verb in the original sentence has ing, you will automatically put being after the verb to be is or are. And then you will put the verb in the past participle. So it will be, this program is being used by my students. And here it's really important to mention the subject. That's why we added by my students. Let's take a look at the present perfect passive. Someone has cleaned our office. Here we have has. Think about it. Has cleaned. We will think about the three. Is it be, been, or being? Let's follow the steps. Let's put the object at the beginning of the sentence and then look for a suitable verb to be and then put the verb in the past participle. Our office has been cleaned. Because the verb has cleaned is in the past participle, I chose been. Okay? Now, is it important to mention the subject? Not really, because it's someone. That's why I didn't add it. Past perfect passive. The professor had cancelled the lecture. Again, had cancelled. Look for the proper verb to be. It's had. So think, is it be, or been, or being? Let's follow the steps. Bring the object at the beginning of the sentence, the lecture, and then choose a proper verb to be. I will let you guess that. And then turn the verb into the past participle. Let's take a look. The lecture had been cancelled by the professor. Now, it's important to mention the subject. That's why we added the subject at the end. If the sentence was in the future simple active sentence, how can we turn it into a passive one? They will announce the news tonight. Think about it. The news will be announced tonight. This is how you use be, been, and being. Be is always used after modal verbs. Passive with modal verbs. Let's take a look. The guards should keep the box in a safe place. The sentence became, the box should be kept in a safe place. As I said, usually after the modal verb, you will use the verb to be, and then you will put the verb in the past participle. Is it important to mention the guards? You can and you cannot. Now, it's your turn. Why don't you turn this active sentence into a passive sentence and see? Can you do it? It's cold. Someone has left the window open. Remember the steps I gave you earlier. Bring the object at the beginning. Choose a verb to be suitable for the object and from the same tense as the verb in the active sentence. And then ask yourself, is it important to mention the subject or not? I'll give you a moment. It's cold. The window has been left open by someone. Is it important to mention someone? I don't think so. Turn the active sentence into a passive sentence. The guests ate all the cake. How are you going to turn this sentence from active sentence into a passive one? Highlight the object, the subject, and the verb, and then bring the object at the beginning, choose a verb to be, turn the verb into past participle, and complete the sentence. All the cake was eaten by the guests. You see how simple the steps are? My friend is looking after my cat. My cat is being looked after by my friend. Now, we finished the passive voice. Let's take a look at the language functions. Now, in the language function question, all you have to think about is how you will respond in that situation. And imagine yourself in that situation. And your answer should be in a full grammatical sentence. Let's take a look at the workbook, page 85, exercise 6. One of your friends has just called you to cancel a pre-arranged study meeting. You and your other friends are already there. So, how will you respond to your friend? What will you say? You are already there waiting for her and she cancelled at the last moment. You will respond, "We are already here. Couldn't you call us earlier to cancel the study meeting?" Okay, is it clear? So you imagined yourself there and you responded naturally to it. Your network provider has charged you for calls you didn't make. You are phoning their helpline. So you called the network provider to ask about the reason they charged you for calls. And those calls, you didn't even make them. You will say, "Hello, I received a message that I was charged for phone calls, but didn't make any of these calls. Would you tell me, please, what was the charge for?" Imagine yourself calling your network provider. What will you say? As simple as that. So, in this episode, we learned grammar and language function. In the grammar, we learned about the passive tense. I gave you some tips and techniques to answer any passive question and even use it in your daily life. And in the functions, I gave you tips to answer the perfect answer for language functions. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching and see you soon.